Okay, and we are live, and with me, I have the beautiful and the lovely and the charming Lapis.
Thank you for that introduction, Rin. It's good to be back on your channel. Um, and it's good to talk to you again. I miss this space and I miss everyone who's watching.
Yeah, so it's like what I wanted to talk to you about is about um Vaush and Cap. Like, but I think there are two things have been going on at the exact same time: leftists infighting and right wing infighting. It's not loud and noisy here on my end, is it?
No, I'm not hearing a lot of noises on your end.
Yeah, because I have the fan on, and I don't know if the fan is, bothering you.
No, I don't hear the fan. Do you hear the heater on my end? So
No, I
I
don't.
have the heater on.
No, I don't hear the heater on. But for me, like at least being in the same room as the fan, it sounds like really, really loud to me. It's like, and it makes me feel self conscious. Like, oh my god, because, or at least I'm aware of how loud and noisy it is, and sure I think it is for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like so. Okay, there's leftist infighting between like Vosh, Contrapoints, and Cap Black, but then there's like right wing infighting between Metokur and Ethan Ralph. And I think it just starts with the summary of the Ralph and Metokur
Sure
drama.
thing. I
Okay,
absolutely have no idea what it's all about. So I would really appreciate an explanation.
okay. Well, I don't know, like the very, very beginning. I just, but I'm just gonna say, like, the quick, too long, different reader version. It's like, so you already know that's how Ethan Ralph got really popular. What helped his channel was going after Monday Mats. You see, Monday Mats, he went around. He was a free speech advocate. I
Uh
think
huh.
that Monday Mats was like a free speech absolutist, and Monday Mats hated any sort of censorship. But Ethan Ralph, grew into popularity. I think that Ethan Ralph skyrocketed to like 100,000, yes, 100,000 subscribers, for, exposing Monday Mats, for, censorship, like Monday Mats, he had like 2 pages, of in his report history of all the channels he flagged so many people.
Why
And
did he do it?
huh,
Why did he flag so many people?
because they hurts his feelings.
I
That's
see.
like one of Monday Matt's favorite targets was Jarbo the Hut, and it's like he just went on all of these, he went around fighting so many people because they hurts his feelings, and it's like 2 pages on his YouTube report history. And that's how Ethan Ralph, got his fame. And it's also his favorite excuse because Ethan Ralph has a lot of, and I want to be careful because this is YouTube and I would like to avoid getting the channel flag. He has a
Yeah.
lot of guests who are parts of the anime rights. The
The
anime rights.
anime, right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good euphemism for them.
Yeah, he has a lot of guests from the anime, right? Like Richard Spencer, the Golden One, Nick Fuentes, all of our favorite cartoon characters.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a lot like
All of our Japan enthusiasts.
anyway, so it's kind of like his cop out excuse would be like, hey, I just care about their free speech. It's like I just care about free speech so terribly much. That's the reason why so many of guests are from the enemy rights. It's because it's like their free speech is constantly under attack and constantly suppressed. And it's kind of like that excuse is like for anybody who even fell for it, but that excuse has, pretty much died in that. So if anybody
Mhm.
loved Ethan Ralph, because it's like, no, Ethan Ralph really means what he says about free speech. He is a true believer. He really cares. And when he has on the anime rights, for his kill stream, he does it because he cares about free speech oh so very much. That died very, very recently. Because it's kind of like, it's like, Metokur has been covering each and every single last person Ethan Ralph has flagged down. And one of it like was like really interesting, because like Ethan Ralph, he flagged down a person who only had like 12 viewers. No, like, I think it was even lower
How
than that.
petty do you need to be? That's just sad.
Let me just find it. I think it was actually lower than that. I think it was actually only have 7 viewers.
Oh my goodness.
That's like really pathetic because it's kind of like, Ethan Rod, he had like 100,000 subscribers at one point. You would
Yeah.
think that he would just be like, oh, like 7 people are only are. Let me get this one. Let me just
Sure,
screen.
sure.
I don't want to like miss the good ones. Okay, hold on. Let me screen share. Let's see. Okay, let's like, dear Flamingo, we've received a notification of claim infringements with respect to your accounts. Here are the details. Infringements, content, blah 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 blah. Copyrights work, Odyssey at the Ralph Retorts, Killstream. And it's like Ethan Ralph of Flag, Flamingo, who was I think Flamingo was his co-host. He used to be
Oh,
his
okay.
co-host.
Do you
See,
remember Andy Worski?
yeah, yeah, I do. Like, okay, Ethan Ralph. Okay, I remember how the fight between Ethan Ralph and Metokur started. It's because, oh, this is interesting too. Ethan Ralph just openly flagged Flamingo off YouTube. Okay, so Ethan Ralph wanted to. He traveled to Italy to get in a fights with Andy Worski, but
Wait, like a physical fight with Andy Worski in Italy?
well, wait a minute. I think no, actually, Andy Worski was still in America, but he had family in Italy. And I think Ethan Ralph took a plane trip to Italy to find Andy Worski's family to harass him or harass them.
Oh,
But Ethan
that's
Ralph was
gross.
but Italy was in Libsyn or something, a bad area in Italy. Or wait a minute, what's it, Portugal? I can't remember. I think it was actually Portugal or whatever. And Italy,
Okay.
well, regardless, 4 people beat the crap out of Ethan Ralph. 4 people beat the crap out of Ethan Ralph. And
Poor
then
people?
4 people beat the crap out of
Oh,
Ethan
four
Ralph.
people.
Yeah,
I thought you
4.
said poor people, and I'm like, you know what? All power to them.
No, I said 4 people, like 1, 2, 3, 4. They beat the crap out of Ethan Ralph and they stolen his purse and whatnot. And then
Mm,
Metokur covered it, and then that's what started the fights between Ethan Ralph and Metokur.
mm. What an interesting expression. Does Ethan Ralph have a condition where his eyes sort of go dead, as in one looks one direction, one looks the other?
You mean like this? What's it called? What's it called?
A
Dead?
lazy eye?
Yeah, Alessia. Like, yeah, I think that Ethan Ralph has a lazy eye.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm trying to find a clip where it's like Ethan Ralph flagging the person, not flagging, but having an issue because a guy with only like 7. Oh, here it is. Um, there were only 9 people watching my Odyssey stream, and then you pop in, RPG TV. Ralph went out and found a 9 viewer stream and laughed at him and started hollering in the comments at the streamer. Like Ethan Ralph got angry because somebody with only like 9 viewers made fun of him. And it's for a person that's had 100,000 subscribers, probably more on YouTube. That's like a real fall from grace.
Just
You know,
obsessively angry. Oh my God, I can't believe that there's these people who don't like me anywhere. It's not allowed.
yeah, but I can you hear that?
I was thunderstruck.
Yeah,
Can you hear it?
I can hear it.
I was starstruck. I was thunderstruck. I saw. Wait. Is that the Ralph retort in RPG's chat room? Nah, it's got to be a troll. It's got to. There's no way. Top of the sector in my chat. I don't believe it. So, what did I do? I clicked on the name, and sure as shit, it was him, the Rage Pig himself, the prolific serial rapist, allegedly. But the evidence seems to stack up against him. If I'm being honest, doesn't look too hot for Mr. Rapid Ralph over there. That all changed last night when Ethan Ralph, he appeared in my Odyssey chat.
Oh, it's like we're playing on a loop. It's like, but it's like, how could anybody be upset with with a live stream with only like 9 viewers? Like only 9 viewers? That is so like, how petty do you have to be? Especially when you think about how big he used to be. Like even PewDiePie like mentioned Ethan Ralph. Like PewDiePie himself, the biggest YouTuber in the world, defended Ethan Ralph's free speech. So it's kind of like for him to care that a person with only like 9 viewers, like made fun of him. That is just so. It's kind of like, and that's the reason why like. That's part of the reason why he's not as popular as he used to be, because he used to have such a strong following, because there are people like, well, it's like, at least you defend free speech, at least you care. But it's kind of like, and this is where it just gets really entertaining for me, and where I just find it amusing. It's because of how, okay, right wing infighting is like really, really interesting. And it's just that they punish you for ever being associated with them. Like, you associated with me, and that's your punishment, because Ethan Ralph is calling out all of the people on like the enemy, right? Like, it's like
Wait. I thought right wingers were always complaining about the left doing guilt by association.
You do not pay attention to right wing infighting, then, because right wing infighting is okay. It is really entertaining. Like, there's the reason why I just love watching it. It's because it's weird, because they actually like weaponize you ever being associated with them. Like Ethan Ralph. Okay, did you know that Gator was his co-host, right? Okay. Okay, so Gator was his co-host. So what Ethan Ralph was going to do is he was actually going to show up to where Gator lived. He was going to put flyers, on every single street corner, saying that, did you know that this racist guy who was in live streams with a bunch of the anime rights, did you know that he lives here? Are you there?
I am there. No, I didn't. As I said, I don't really keep up with much right wing infighting, because honestly, the way Twitter kind of works, if you don't seek out like content creators on the anime right, like they won't appear in your feed. So oftentimes I have no idea what they're saying unless I'm seeing it from a screenshot of someone else.
Oh, I just find it really, really interesting. It's kind of like, it's like whenever like people like, whenever there's right wing infighting, they kind of like do this whole thing. It's kind of like, did you know that this person was associated with this? It's kind of like, it's kind of like how Ethan Ralph had all of these all of these snippets, I guess you'll call it, of all of the racist things Sargon Vakata ever said, and he just
Mhm.
had like a copy of each time Sargon used the N word, each time Sargon said anything remotely, racist. Ethan Ralph had a copy of it, and it's kind of a lot like, that would have definitely would encourage, people to stop being racist, because it's kind of like, if associating with you, if it's kind of like, if you stepped out of line, you're like, did you know that this person associated with me? Like, did you know that this person ever associated with me? Like, this person ought to, like, lose their job because they associated with me. It's kind of like, well, why on earth would anybody, like, even if a person had any like racist tendencies, it's like, it's like, even you had, it's like, you kind of know, like, that they have, like, I don't know, a proclivity of like going like, hey, like, did you know about all of the racist things that this person ever said? Like, interrupt, like, did you know about all of the racist things that Gator ever said? He also threatened to do the same thing to Metokur. Like, did you know that, James Patrick O'Shaughnessy like lives here? And do you know all of the problematic things that he said over the internet? Did you know that he lives here? Did you know that this problematic person lives here? And it's kind of like his
It's just
friends
like,
are like,
at this point, what separates you from the strangest, most most like really, really stereotyped idea of a SJW that people had back in 2015 or 2016?
that's the part. It's like you speak like a total complete SJW, except right wing. It's like, it's like you really are just gonna show up to where Gator lived and put flyers all around his neighborhood and be like, did you know that this guy who's associated with the anime rights lives here, and this is his address and phone number? Did you know that he lives here? It's like, what separates you? I mean,
You're basically like, this is something that, like, I've never heard of people on the left doing, because it would be so bizarre and everyone would make fun of it for days and days and days, but like without any hint of self-awareness. People who are always being like, oh yeah, wow, the left is so sensitive. Oh yeah, the left like hates free speech, and oh yeah, the left loves to cancel people just for who they associate with. They turn around and they go and do something like that. Like, that has got to be one of the most online poison things I've heard all week.
yeah, I wonder if it's the alcohol, because I know that when it's why I don't drink anymore. It's because I know that alcohol makes me very, very sensitive and very, very emotional. I wonder if it's all the alcohol he drinks that, you know, Festus behavior, because I do know that there was a time where he really did allow his fan base to insult him nonstop. And it does kind of, it is weird when you watch somebody, I didn't watch him, vigorously. I watched him like when Ethan, not Ethan Rock, but when PewDiePie gave him a shout out. There was a
Mm-hmm.
time when PewDiePie, came to the defense of Ethan Ralph. And so I watched, Ethan Ralph to see like what sort of person PewDiePie defended. And like there was a time when Ethan Ralph did allow his own fan base to insult him nonstop, and his fan base kept calling him slurs. His fan base would treat him with outright disrespect, whatnot. And Metokur was actually treated significantly better, in his own kill stream than Ethan himself was.
That's interesting. I wonder why he would, encourage his fans to do that. Maybe, like, is he just one of those sorts of people who wants like approval at all costs? Like, as long as I'm being noticed, I'm winning.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, he recently changed to being a hypersensitive snowflake that would, block people and gets people's channels taken down for playing any clips of his kill stream, but it's like, there used to be a time where he allowed his fan base to assault him nonstop, and he would allow his fans to just, go on a call with him, and his fans would talk down to him with absolute contempt. His fans would call him all they would, say some really ruthless things to him. But then when Metokur come on, Metokur would be treated significantly better than him by a landslide. It would be like, yes, sir, no, sir. It was a strange sight to behold. Like, it's Ethan Ralph's show. It's called a Ralph Tour, but for it to be called all sorts of slurs.
It might as well be Metokur retort.
Yeah, exactly. But then, like, Metokur shows up, and it's like, yes, sir, no, sir, right away, sir. Whatever you say, sir. Like, whatever you say, sir. Like, I agree, sir.
I think sometimes, is Metokur more popular than Ethan Ralph in terms of like sub count or whatever?
Metokur's the type of person that keeps reinventing himself. Like he was Jim 81 Jim, then he was the internet's aristocrat, and then he became Mr. Metokur. It's like he keeps deleting, his identity, and he keeps like reinventing himself. So it's kind of like, I don't know, he's kind of an enigma. It's kind of hard to figure him out. But he has that loyal fan base that keeps funding him. Like, there are people who like, oh yeah, I followed him when he was Jim 81 Jim. I followed him when he reinvented himself and became the internet aristocrats. And I followed him when he reinvented himself and called himself Mr. Metokur. Like, there are people who keep following him no matter how many times he reinvents himself.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Bobby is in the comment section. Bobby
nice.
B. Worski was going to fight Tonka. I don't know. I usually ignore drama.
Fair enough.
I saw a video of Ralph outside of Daily Wire. Oh, I didn't know that the Daily Wire talked about Ethan Ralph. I think he was rolling around all angry about how they wouldn't let him in. He claimed that they invited him, but I don't know if I trust someone that dumb. No, I don't think it was the Daily Wire. I think it was the Blaze. I think it was the Blaze because Metokur covered it. Metokur like showed, Ethan Ralph outside of like Blaze TV, and he was gonna talk to Rakita, I think, or was it Rakita or e- Elisha or whatever. But then he kept calling the guy like homophobic slurs, and he like made a bunch of homophobic remarks about the guy, and then the security guard like kicked him out. Like, the security guard is like, either you leave or we call the police.
Amazing.
They posted flyers of Sheldon Peterson's neighborhood after he blew up. Yeah, that stuff is messed up, but that's how tyrants work. Metokur is a troll. Either Roth is a joke. Oh yeah, it was the Blaze. Rikita was on that. You're right. Yeah, like Metokur did a good job covering it, and Eden Ralph, he lost any respects that he had. He lost lots of respect. I mean, wait a minute. There was hold on, give me a second. My allergies.
Oh, okay. Well, hello, Bobby, if you're still watching, and anyone else. I guess we'll wait for Rin to get back.
Yeah, sorry about that. This is allergy season, and I have
no problem.
a fever. But wait a minute. Let me just. I mean, right wing infighting is just so. I don't know. Like, what's amazing to me is how ruthless right wingers could be. Like, hold on, let me do a screen share. Screen share. Let me screen share.
Have you ever heard of centrist infighting? Like that, I often think about it, but I honestly can't say that I have really.
Okay. I hope you'll be able to hear it. Where's the volume?
Okay.
Ethan, happy birthday, Ethan. Love your dad, Jim, and best friends Josh, Flan, and Gator. Good luck on the upcoming corn harvest and enjoy that cake. Ethan, happy birthday.
Okay, did you hear that?
Yeah. What's the context of it?
Oh, they're just bullying Ethan Ralph. Okay, that's an old photo of Ethan Ralph. It's like love your dad, Jim. Jim is Mr. Metokur.
I see.
Jim, yeah. So okay, that's the old photo of Ethan. Jim is Metokur.
Mhm.
That's Metokur. He just took the name of that. I'm not quarantine. I'm not sure if I could say the other word. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna risk it. And then it's kind of like Josh. Josh is the founder or the owner of Kiwi Farms. Gator is his as co-host, the one where he is going to go to Gator's neighborhood and put out flyers. Say, did you know that Gator lived here and he was in a live stream with the enemy rights?
Oh
And
my
Flamingo
goodness.
is also co-hosting, and one of them made. I think it was one of them. I'm not entirely sure. I do know that somebody made what's it called, a Guns 64.
Okay.
I think it was called a Guns 64. Let me look at it because let's see. Let me just see if I could just find Guns 64.
Sure
But
thing.
huh?
I said sure thing. See if you can find it.
Oh yeah, it's just okay. It's absolutely cruel. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna just have it on the more politically correct, safe thing.
Okay.
Hold on. I don't want it to be on anything that could get this channel flagged on because
Yeah.
it does have lots of slurs in it. But I would try to put it on the safest thing on it. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like it is from Mario 64, but they, did it. They redesigned Mario 64 to make fun of
You feature Ethan Ralph?
Yeah, 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 and they like it's kind of like okay, the tune that's supposed to be Mario, but it's kind of like it's like they replaced Mario with Ethan Ralph, and it's kind of like I wish I could show you, but there are things that I can't show you because, but I think I could skip around though, like skip around, maybe turn the volume off, um, just be really, really
What
careful
an
with.
interesting face.
Yeah, just be careful what I show. Okay, but you see that trees? Okay,
Yeah.
the trees are his belly fat.
Oh my goodness.
Is trees based off his belly fat? And let's see. Okay, the red coins have been replaced with hamburgers.
To fill his appetites.
Yeah. But it's just ruthless. Like right wing infighting, it's like whoa, whoa. It's
Yeah.
just absolutely cruel because they go for the below the belt test. They go like really, really, really below the belt. Like it's like how low could you sink? Like how low do you have to go?
Mm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess they don't really put much stock in each other. And I mean, I think that they see Ethan Ralph as a sort of an enemy. So whatever you could do to him goes. You see this actually a lot in a lot of internet spaces. If you can get someone to be seen as like an enemy or a lolcow, you can pretty much do anything to them and no one will mind. It's interesting actually the process when one person starts as like a regular person and then the attention they attract online and how that affects them gradually desensitizes people to treating them like a joke. Like Christine Chandler, pretty horrible person. Not necessarily sure that she would have ended up where she did if it hadn't been for like a decade of internet focus and harassment.
I don't know who Christine Chandler is.
You might know her as Chris Chan.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with a Christian.
Okay, well that's for the best. Essentially, she had a really bad Sonic OC comic with a creature known as Sonichu as the main character. People mocked it for its bad drawing skills. She started adding the critics into the comics, like Sonichu would kill the critics and things like that. And she sort of became like an online phenomenon where people would be obsessed about her life and her relationship with her parents and what was going on. And she just sort of became, I guess, like the lolcow, the object of fixation for a lot of these people. And yeah, people would do increasingly nasty things to her. And now I think she's in jail. For what? I'm actually not sure if it's appropriate to say on stream.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not appropriate to say what she did on stream. Anyway, Bobby says, "Hi, Lapis. Centrists are too busy critiquing the left or the right to unify." That's true. They aren't really a group anyway. That is true. Like centrist is it's weird to put a word for it. It's kind of like a non-group or it's a non-identity group. I don't know. It's kind of like how it's hard to explain, especially since centrists are going to be different in different countries. Like, in America, some type of liberal is going to be a centrist. And when I say liberal, I mean, like, there's neoliberal, there's classical liberalism. There's going to be a lot like there's social liberalism. When people think liberal, they automatically think of the status quo. They think of Joe Biden. They think of, but I'm
Kamala Harris.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about, the establishment when I say liberal. I'm not talking about liberal. I'm talking about like some type of liberal because you are going to be circular. You're going to be within the Overton window. If you are a centrist, you're going to be somewhere within the Overton window. You're at least going to be like circular, be like really close to the Overton window. So you're going to be like either a neoliberal or you're going to be like a classical liberal. You're going to be like a social liberal. You're going to be like, you're going to be some flavor of liberalism, even if it's not, neoliberalism, or you're going to be like, okay, to use terms that, Americans are more familiar with, you're going to be like probably a conservative, but that's just using a term. More America's the average America.
Yeah, because you can definitely be a conservative liberal and it doesn't actually have any sort of impact on the that is a very real set of politics that a lot of parties in the rest of the world have. The conservative versus liberal divide is something that's very unique to American politics.
Yeah, and I think that Americans tend to see things in an American-centric way, but it's kind of like centrist, like, like a centrist in England would be a social democrats. Yeah, I think a centrist in Europe would actually be a person who's a social democrats, but in America, it's going to be like some form of liberal. But the thing about being a centrist is that you're not really far away from the status quo. You're within the status quo. It's why centrists are really hard to get suspended off Twitter. It's really, really hard to flag a centrist off Twitter. For example, my Twitter account is from 2016. Like I could try to show people maybe not because of my recent tweets, but it's like if anybody goes to my Twitter accounts, it's like my Twitter accounts is from all the way back in 2016. There have been many attempts to flag me off Twitter. There have been many attempts, but the worst that Twitter has ever given me is a 12-hour ban. That's the worst that I ever experienced. I have not been banned for 24 hours ever. I never ever been banned for 24 hours. I never ever been banned for 3 days. Of 12 hours is the worst Twitter has ever given me.
Yeah, I think the worst Twitter's ever given me is like sometimes they've deleted a tweet that they thought was bad or something. I never been banned for like a whole time.
Yeah, it's like, I never gotten a 24-hour ban because it's kind of like a centrist is going to be a sort of person that's going to be really, really, really hard because we're we're pretty much people who stick within the status quo, stick with it in what is acceptable. We don't really deviate from the status quo. So even when I got quotes tweeted by taking down MRAs twice. Like you would, to they tried to, it is called take down MRAs because I just talked about men's rights a few times, but it's kind of like they did try to, flag me down, get me suspended, and they used to really silly tactic. Like what they do is that it gets their goons to attack you, and then it's like they would basically violate the rules trying to get you suspended. They would basically, they've misgendered me. They kept insisting that I'm a man. They like
Mm.
they kept calling me ableist slurs and whatnot. They were like really, really ruthless to me. But
Yeah.
I mean, my accounts is still around because I saw it to be easy to see through, to be honest. Like I could like easy like because it's like I didn't even know who Takedown MRS was, but when I got bombarded with all of those notifications, what I did was I went through their accounts and I saw them celebrating each person they got suspended. They're like, we got this person suspended.
It's a
Yeah,
pretty weird mentality. Like why obsess over getting someone like banned? I don't know. Like I've encountered people that I found like very frustrating before, and I was happy that they were suspended mainly because they would spread false accusations and stuff that I think like legitimately, well, you're just kind of poisoning the well. Like legitimately, if the stuff they said was said like publicly, you could like get them on libel. Um, but it wasn't anything to do with, oh, they just disagreed with me, you know?
yeah, and that's the problem with Twitter. So the problem with Twitter is that you could really, get people just for having the wrong opinion. Like I had to delete the tweets. It took me like a long time to delete the tweet because I feel like, I didn't say anything wrong. So at first I tried to resist. I tried to resist at first, like, no, I refuse to delete the streets. I'm going to try to have this appealed. But, like, I heard that the appealing process could take 3 months or 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like I acquiesced. It's like, I acquiesced and I just deleted the tweets. But it's like it's like my opinions on Kyle. Kyle, I'm not gonna even say his last name, but and it's like, you making me delete the tweets, because I have the wrong opinion, like whatever. But it's like, what, finding whatever. But I'm also not surprised that Twitter has been doing poorly in the well, their stock is going down because it's like, it's kind of like, it's like it's one thing to go like, well, we want to stop harassment, but it's another thing to go like, oh, we're going to get you for having the wrong opinions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just sort of a disconnect from reality that you observe sometimes on Twitter. Like you'll get people who are more mad about, let's say, liking a different ship or not enjoying a certain show or saying that something is stupid. Then you will have about people like actually sending, serious threats of harm, doxing, all of these sorts of like really toxic behaviors, that's fine so long as it's targeted towards the right people and the mind of a Twitter user. But the things that they're going after that are like completely innocuous off of the website, like liking a different ship or calling someone stupid, those become like major serious criminal offenses.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Let me read what Bobby has to say. Yeah, centrists are to be secret. Independents like myself could be called centrist. I lean a left sometimes, but mostly I see both sides as hypocritical. I do see problems with both sides, especially when you get to the extremes. Like if somebody is, like a social democrat, or if somebody's a conservative, I could talk to them. But the more and more extreme a person is, the more it's like, the more like extreme. It's kind of like, when people get in a fights with a tanky.
Mm.
Don't compare us to Europe. They are so okay. I'm just reading ahead to make sure that he's not saying anything that could get hurt the channel. They are
Yeah,
so
yeah.
full of
I don't like, I think, take a second look at European politics because like I can sort of see where you're coming from an American perspective, but like in Eastern Europe, that's a fairly conservative region. Like usually it's right-wing parties that are elected to power. And a lot of them have liberal conservative politicians. And in fact, I would say liberal conservatism is the mainstream center right ideology in Europe. Um, of course, that's kind of changing with the times because people are seeing it as kind of insufficient for the challenges that we're facing. For instance, the French Republicans, who have basically been in some form or another the dominant party, just like the Republicans in America, they got completely trounced. They didn't even get 5% of the votes. They didn't even qualify for the runoff in the French presidential election. And the Socialist Party, which is basically like France's equivalent of the Democrats, didn't even get past 2% of the vote. So I think it's interesting how even in countries that are like used to have a de facto two-party system like America, if there is a will, people will vote differently. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily as possible in America, but who knows? We may see a strong independent candidate, for better or for worse. I think you could get like an Elon Musk figure running for office, and depending on how the two parties were doing at the time, they could do quite well.
Yeah, they're so for love they did come conservative. Lol, you're lucky. I've had two Twitter accounts suspended for calling a feminist. I'm not gonna say that part because I think YouTube doesn't want me to say it. Also, these are the only two groups that's threatened my life. Yeah, I got suspended for saying redacted. This is not strong. Laugh aloud. I should said Western Europe. The East was under the Iron Curtain, so they know leftists are tyrants. England hasn't seemed to learn that yet. Laugh aloud. But I should have a specified Western Europe.
Okay. Well, anyway,
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it's like, well, anyway, oh, let me share screenshots. Uh, mm, let's see. I wonder if whatever screen share. Uh, hopefully, it won't reveal anything to. Right, share. Okay, all the J.K. Rowling, all J.K. Rowling had to do was shut the YouTube is like swear words, and she could have been almost uncritically beloved for like half a century. Women be quiet her and starts apologizing challenge. Um, oh wait a minute, I should stop screen share. Okay, so okay. Vaush said women be quieter and stop um starts apologizing challenge. So Lapis, are you a cis woman? Are you a trans woman? What are you?
I am trans, yes.
Okay. So when Vasha says women be quieter and starts apologizing challenge, wouldn't that also include trans women?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if trans women are women, then trans women need to be quiet and start apologizing. The only way that trans women don't need to start apologizing and being quiet, apparently, would be if trans women weren't women. So, I mean, the implications in Vosh's argument are really not good.
Yeah, it's like that's what Contrapoints was getting at. It's like it's weird because it's like Vosh holding in a way Vosh is like red Sargon. Like he's Sargon, but he's like more like Ludwig. Like he's like like no, like I don't know if he calls himself a socialist or a communist. I don't know if he. I don't really pay that much attention to a guy like I don't. That's the reason I said red because I thought he was a communist, but some people are like, no, 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 he called himself a liberal here. Here is Vaush saying that he's a liberal, but then it's like, well, whatever, whatever. But it's like, either way, he reminds me of Sargon of Akkad because it's sort of like further left is Sargon because it's kind of like, oh man, I lost my train of thought. Like, where was I going with this? It's like, man, I lost my train of thought. It's like, I was going to say something, but then my brain farted. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that I think Vosh identifies as a libertarian socialist, but self-identification isn't too helpful necessarily when determining someone's politics. You have to look where they actually stand. With Vosh's stands, I feel like he's about as prejudiced as you are allowed to be in a left-wing space. And he likes to push that envelope pretty frequently, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I know I was going to say. Vosh, like, his whole thing is being an intellectual, kind of like Sargon's thing was like,
Yeah.
like how like if you ever watch Star, it's like I am an intellectual. Like Vosh's thing is like being an intellectual, but it's kind of weird because it's like he missed the points that ContraPoints was getting at. It's kind of a lot like he said, "Women shut up and be quiet," or challenge. But it's kind of a lot like he's like, no, 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 that's for women. I wasn't directed at kids to trans people. Like like I'm defending trans people. It's women that I'm targeting, not trans people. And it's like, Christian is like, dude, dude, don't you like see like trans women are women? Like you're just making these words. It's like and it's like I am trying to what's it elucidate um elucidates ContraPoints what ContraPoints is trying to say in a way that the average person could understand. Like I'm just putting it down so that's even if you are 10 years old, you could still understand this even if you are 10. I am really, really, really simplifying it. Vosh keeps saying trans women are real women. Vosh says trans women are real women very, very frequently. That's what he says very frequently. Trans women are real women. Vosh says, women be quieter and starts apologizing challenge. And it's like, you are trans. And just one more time, just answer this one more time. When Vasha says trans women be quieter and starts apologizing, wouldn't that also include trans women? Will you please answer that question?
And what did Vosh say to that?
No, no, no. I didn't share if you want me to, I could find Contrapoint Suites if you want me to.
Okay.
Um, no, but I was talking directly to you. I was talking directly to you. Like, just one more time, like when Vaush says, women be quiet, sir, and starts apologizing, challenge, wouldn't that also include trans women?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, because it couldn't, unless you believe that trans women aren't women. So Vash's argument doesn't make sense unless that's sort of the implicit implication. What Vaush is really looking for is a socially acceptable way to be nasty to women. Like, it's pretty transparent, because, and you can kind of see this in Vaush's relationship with all kinds of minorities. Actually, like superficially, he'll say he's an ally, but when you say things like look at how he talks about Black women creators if they're right wing. He seems to have like this real hate on for Black people he disagrees with. But whether they be left wing or right wing. And I think he made a comment about how they all talk the same or something like that.
Yes, he did. He did. Sorry. I found that really, really, like, that really anchored me and under so many ways. Oh, wait a minute. I found it. Screen share. So, let me find screen share one more time. I mean, this isn't as easy to use as Google Hangout, but I'm getting used to it, though. I am definitely getting more used to it as time goes on. Um, um, let's see. Let me go. Okay, this is maybe the longest Twitter thread ever typed, and one of its 16 of these is apparently that she doesn't obsessively think about me. I think you should think about what she's saying here instead of getting really defensive about her correctly pointing out that your perceptive on this is limited by your not being trans and not a woman, doing edgy, ironic misogyny while defending trans people magnifies the grain of truth in what TERFs say about there being misogyny in trans activism. I actually do think there is misogyny in trans activism. Anyway, maybe your tweets at JK Rowling just didn't land the way you wanted. Okay, fine, it happens, but why get so defensive about reasonable criticism? Of how many? Man, this is too tiny to read. This is just really too tiny. I can't read any of it. It's too small for me.
That's the
What?
frustrating thing about these notes. Like, it's easier when you're not when you could just scroll in on your own time, but when it's something like this, like you could press the zoom in function maybe on the side.
Um, um, ch- I'll leave it alone. But I kind of was, like feeling where, ContraPoints was coming from because, like Vosh is pitting trans women against cis women, because Vosh made it clear that when he says women shuts up and being quiet or challenged, he wasn't talking about trans women. He was talking about cis women. But, and ContraPoints was like getting like you're kind of pitting trans women against cis women, but
Hmm.
pitting pitting trans women against cis women does not help the trans women at all, because it's just saying that, like, oh yeah, trans women, we are the enemies of cis women. But it's kind of a lot like if you're trying to you know fight for equality. If fight for equality, you can't be like, no, no, you are the enemy. And it's like one of the, okay, you know about, like, Vosh being transphobic, but try to do it in an acceptable way. It's kind of like this. It's like um Hunter Avalon was a conservative, and as a conservative, guess which trans YouTuber he hated the most as a conservative?
They're white.
Yes, as such a conservative, Hunter Evelyn hates Blair White's a lot. He got into really, really nasty Twitter arguments with her. Like they kept going at each other. Like he hated Blair White most of all as a conservative because she's a trans woman. And now that he's left, guess which trans woman he keeps targeting?
Blair White.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a lot like, so it's like, wait a minute.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, it's like he figured out a way to go after, Blair White's while be like, hey, I'm actually a really good person, actually. It's like, didn't you target Blair White nonstop as a conservative though? It's like, it's amazing how you're still targeting the same person. Nothing has really changed with you.
Mm-hmm. It's just you've tried to appeal to a new crowd to justify doing this, to justify your anger.
Yes. It's like, Blair White isn't a true conservative because she's trans, but it's like, I was like, well, actually, Blair White isn't a true conservative. No. It's like, Blair White is, it's a problematic. Blair White is problematic because look at all of her problematic views. It's like, he just figured out a politically correct way to target the sexy person. Bobby B says, I think Vaush calls himself a socialist. At least that's what he said when he stated, I don't care about losing with principles. I don't. I want to win as a socialist, not to lose as a socialist. Yeah, for Vaush, it should include trans women, but not for Shapiro. And he wasn't really insulting women. He was insulting women who disagreed with his Colts team.
Well, the thing is with Vaush's comments is that, I mean, like, he didn't say TERFs shut up and stop apologizing challenge. He said women. And I think that was very deliberate. He could have said TERFs and people wouldn't really have pushed back at all. Everyone would have been fine with it. But he said women in particular because his trans activism is a cover for misogyny. It's a cover for saying degrading things about women.
Yeah, because it's like, it's like he also excluded trans women when he said women shut up and be quieter challenge. He didn't include trans women, but if trans women are real women, like he kept saying, then how is he defending trans women by telling women to shut up and be quieter? It's like he's saying that trans women are actually men, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, if you say women, like, he didn't automatically include trans women. That means that each time he said trans women are real women, he lied each time. Or else he would have, quickly figured out the problem, of why excluding trans women from the word women is an issue, especially if he's going to keep saying trans women are real women. Like, if he's going to keep saying that, you would think that he's automatically see the problem of excluding trans women from the term women.
Yeah.
You've gotten really quiet. I thought that you would have a stronger opinion on this topic.
On Vaush versus, well, I mean, a part of it is that it happened like a month ago. Another part of it is that I did have very strong feelings around Contrapoints and Vaush and all these people. And to an extent, I still do. I think that Vaush is a very overrated figure in left-wing spaces. I think he uses a veneer of progressivism to disguise really ugly attitudes. I mean, there was that whole transphobic rant that he went on that I shared on my channel that you've seen, which, could easily have been said by Ethan Ralph. But he ultimately, I guess I want to be more interested in the people I like than the people I don't like. More interested in the policies I want rather than the policies I don't, if that makes any more sense. I feel like what I offer to the conversation is too negative.
Hmm. Mm. Uh, I need to think about that because it's kind of like, well, Twitter is a negative area, or most of the internet is negative in general.
Yeah. It's unfortunate actually because I think that's a big disadvantage of the Twitter space actually. Like I want to, you know, connect in these spaces not to make fun of people I don't like, but to connect with people I do, to hear ideas that are intriguing to me, not to, destroy someone else's opinion, but have a conversation with them. But Twitter doesn't encourage that, unfortunately.
I think it's intentional.
Oh, I agree. Um,
Also, because okay, there are things that Switzer could, easily do to, stop harassment. Like, okay, like the quotes tweets usually gets misused a lot. So like maybe, because but they did get rid of it because they loved it when people quote tweeted Donald Trump to make fun of him. But it's kind of like it does frequently gets misused to bully people and harass people. It's why I made a conscious effort to try to quote tweets friends, because people like to look at quote tweets
mhm.
like who divides the arguments. So I tried to quote tweets my friends to be like, hey, here's the people that I agree with. And it's like, like I wouldn't really care if, I quote tweets about like, oh, I'm going to follow this person, because it's like, if you're going to follow a person I'm quote tweeting, you're just following a friend, because quote tweets could also like backfire because, your followers could start giving a follow to the person you quote tweeted, which has happened before where I quote tweeted a person and then like some people who were following me started following the person that I quote tweeted. Um, that happens. Mm.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree that the quote tweet function is often used in like harassing ways, but I think that with Twitter, what they're mainly interested in is driving engagement. And I think they've realized that negativity is driving engagement for them far better than positivity would. So they do everything they can to incite drama. Like that stupid feature that lets you see what your followers like, that is designed to get people angry at each other, to be like, wait, I thought you were on my side, but you like this opinion that I hate. How could you?
Basically, okay, and I told you this before, but do you know that that was implemented during the Trump era? And it's kind of
Mm,
ridiculous. Like before, like if you liked a tweet by Donald Trump for any reason at all, even if you click the like button by accident, if you like the tweets by Donald Trump at all whatsoever, for people like, oh, you liked a tweets by Donald Trump. You know what? I am going to unfollow you. You are a bad person, or I'm going to start, reporting your accounts, or I'm going to out you, or whatever. Or it's like, oh, you liked a tweet by Blair White for any reason at all whatsoever. She could be talking about kittens or puppies or whatever.
like you might not even know who Blair White is in this context and just see, wow, this seems like a good-looking woman saying something I like, that's saying something like neutral.
Yeah,
Um,
or yeah, you might just think that Blair White, because Blair White people, plenty of people believe that she's cisgendered. People don't believe she's just like, no, you're not trans. But it's kind of like, like if you have no idea who Blair White is, you will probably click the like button and retweets it. Now, I know who she is, but it's like, you liked a tweet by Blair White, or like I've actually did that with the anime rights. That has actually happened to me by the anime right, where I would be like, I have no idea who the person was, but a person, shared their home cooking. And I thought, oh,
mhm.
wow, that is beautiful home cooking. I clicked it, liked, and, I retweeted it. And people on the left were like, did you know that you just retweeted the person from the enemy, right? How could you? Like, how dare you? It's like, uh, I'm sorry, I didn't give the person a background check, you know. Because it's like a lot of times, like, you just see something, on your feed, and you mindlessly like and retweets. You don't exactly just, you don't go to their bio, and you don't look at, 3 pages of their tweets to make sure that they are the, acceptable person to like and retweets. You just, you just kind of like, oh, you just like mindlessly like and retweet something.
Yeah. And that's the horrific thing really about the way Twitter works, is that it is designed to stimulate negative engagement in some ways that actually boosts opinions that people probably wouldn't have seen. Like, I look at a lot of tweets that start getting like a lot more likes after people do the hate bandwagon on them. Like, it exposes hundreds of new people to this person's content. Like, if you really don't like someone on Twitter, an effective way, not the way that Twitter encourages for you to get clout, but an effective way would just be to screenshot what they're saying and talk about it. But Twitter encourages you to go into the replies, go into the quote tweets, get that ratio. There's a reason they've left that feature in, because it stimulates engagement, which is good for the website.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly because the quote tweets is often misused. It's usually used for bullying and harassment. Like when I got quote tweeted by Take It Down MRA twice, and then I got flooded with harassments with people. They mainly misgendered me. They mainly called me by he, him pronouns, and they refused to call me by she, her pronouns. And if you are new to this channel, if people want to know, like, are you trans? I am not trans. I am cisgendered. But it's like, it's quite weird. It's like, not. Do you know what's particularly ironic about it?
What?
It's that they're on the left. You would think that being on the left, that
they would
be.
misgender.
Yeah, isn't it ironic that people on the left would, call me he, him? You would think that on the left that they would hate it and would be disgusted by it, but actually they were like actively doing it. That was like really surprising and intriguing, and it makes me wonder, like, if they like really care about trans issues, or if like they kind of, or like if they just because like you would think that if somebody would say, like, hey, don't misgender people, because that could lead to, as to use euphemism, people playing Sudoku, and Sudoku being a word for a word that I can't say on YouTube, but it for people to play Sudoku, it's like don't misgender, because bad things would happen. But then it's kind of like, then why are you misgendering me? Why are you misgendering me then? Especially on the left, it's like it does make you wonder if they in the closets actually have like hostile feelings, towards the trans community. Because it's like, if you are, if you don't know who I am, as far as like they could have known I could have been trans, like they don't know,
Yeah.
it's like, uh, as far as they know, like, I could have been trans. Like, why are you misgendering me if there's a possibility that you could have been, like, I could have been trans though?
I think they immediately assumed you're a man if you were criticizing feminism, or if MRA, like whatever, was criticizing you. They just sort of assumed that you're lying about your identity and that you're actually a white man. Because it's convenient, you don't have to feel bad about it. There doesn't have to be any sort of nuance in the conversation if all of your enemies are privileged people whom are bad.
Yeah, I was accused of being a white man, and it was like really, really, I cared more about being misracialized than like being misgendered. Like when they called me he, him, I really didn't care. But when they called me white, that is the part that pissed me off a little bit more than being misgendered. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate my people. Like, so if I offended you, I didn't mean to offended you.
No,
Like,
I'm not offended at all.
oh.
Even if you said that you did, I mean, like I can understand the sentiment, even though I don't think it's right.
No, it was really like I was just more annoyed by being misracialized because like
Yeah.
why do you think that I am white? Because like I've been accused IRL in real life. I've been accused of sounding white, but the reason why is because they made it clear that I sounded intelligent. And so it's kind of a lot like they're like, so like white it was almost like another word for intelligence. It's like oh, like words like Jeremiah, words like effusive, like why do you tie that and they're like, and I'm like, talk like what? White? And I said, what do you mean by white? It's like black. Or like I'm clearly a black person. They're like, you talk like a white. And they made it clear, like, that I sound, too intelligent to be black. And that was like said directly to me, to my face. So like when a person over the internet accuses me of whites, it's like, well, what do you mean I sound white? Like, what does that mean? What does white mean? Are you using whites as another word for intelligent? Because that's the reason why being accused of being white pisses me off, because sometimes whites is used as an alternative word for intelligence.
Yeah, and I think that's really bad because I mean, it doesn't really have anything to do with intelligence. Whites, to the extent that there is what we call the, any sort of differences, I think, are due to differences in circumstances, differences in history, not anything inherently biological. There is some minor differences in terms of how people of different races react to the sun and things, but honestly, I feel like we need to move towards a world where we try to think of things that connect us rather than focusing on things that divide us.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, but that's not really how, I mean, Twitter for some of this is like really, really negative. It's really, it, it's sort of talks to people generally on Twitter. Um,
Yeah. And I think sometimes it can be hard to talk to people on YouTube depending on the format because the things that gets the views are all those like dramatic debates where everyone's really nasty to each other and it's more about how bad you can make the other person look rather than having a conversation.
it's why I don't really respect, Vaush, because it's like it's not that I agree with Professor Flowers. I disagree with Professor Flowers, but it's much more like, she is a guest, and to me, you treat, a guest with respect. Don't get me wrong, like if it's mutual, it's different because it's kind of like when people, invite Metokur to speak, like, Metokur, please come. They kind of already know who he is. It is more surprising when he's polite because there are times when Metokur actually is like really, really nice. If you like hunts the internet for it, like there are times when he actually is really, really nice. But like when you invite Metokur, it's kind of like, I don't know, playing Russian roulette, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You
You
know, like
sort of you have to expect a certain sort of level of behavior.
yeah, you kind of expect, like, because he is known for making people cry, like that's his reputation. Medicare is known for making people cry and whatnot. And Vaush, not Vaush, another person, his name is V accused Medicare, well, okay, V accused Medicare fans of pushing a person into, as a euphemism, play Sudoku, but they actually like went through it. They completed Sudoku and said, "Oh, your fans, pushed a person to play Sudoku, and now they are gone for good now." And it's like, and Medicare was like confused. Medicare had no idea what he's talking about. So I don't know if it actually happened. It's an accusation, and he did say it to Medicare's face, but Medicare, it sounded a general was it genuinely genuinely confused. He was like, wait, what? Huh? What are you talking about? I don't know, like, any of this. But so did that really happen? But I do know that Metokur has a severely bad reputation. However, I have seen him in a few live streams. Like, he actually interviewed, as an internet aristocrat, he actually interviewed two trans women. He was actually really nice, kind, and polite to them the whole time. They had a respectful disagreement.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, he actually had a nice, kind, friendly, respectful disagreement with two trans women. He didn't dehumanize them in any way. He even, I've even seen him in a live stream with a biracial guy. He was like, I think he was Blasian. I think he was half black, half Asian. And
Okay.
like the guy's like, oh my God, I thought you were going to be mean, cruel, and ruthless to me. And it's like, Metacor's like, no, like, I wanted to be nice and kind to you, because it was like an interview. And it's like, the guy was taken aback because Metacor was really friendly to him. So it's like Russian roulette. You don't really know what you're going to get with him because there is a expectation that he's going to be cruel, but sometimes he is surprisingly incredibly nice. And I told you this in DMs before, but Metokur was actually going to college to be a school teacher. And Metokur had like black students that couldn't read or write. He wanted to stay after school and help get their grades up, but the school told him no, that he couldn't really do it. That if a black kid had a poor grade, to just pass them. And when he was on a live stream with a recent live stream, a fairly recent live stream with a guy from Massachusetts, pretty much confirmed what Metokur had said because he's like, oh yeah, in Massachusetts is pretty much similar here. So it's kind of like it kind of verifies what Metokur had to say that like in the school system, like at least in Minnesota, like it's like if you have a black student and they can't read or write, to just pass them. And he says something even more interesting is that they were intended to give the students iPads. I don't know if somebody wants to corroborate his story or not, but he did say that did say that the school wanted to give all of the students iPads. But the reason why that would be interesting is because there is this communist I talked to on Twitter. And this communist I talked to on Twitter was talking to me about how we're moving away from a disciplinary society and we're transitioning into a society of control or control society. And the more data you give, the easier for you to be controlled.
Well, I think there's definitely a lot of truth to that. I mean, look at something like the Patriot Act. A lot of the aspects of the way the government and corporations are trying to control you is through your personal information, because if they have your personal information, they have a lot of power over you, and they can use that power and share that power with a lot of people illicitly. Like, I mean, look at Cambridge Analytica. That was an example of Facebook like leaking private data of its users and using it for its own purposes, even though, instead of just using it to target ads, it was starting to like, okay, how can we use this to target people politically? How can we use this to divide them?
Hey, you do know that Facebook sells like user data to the government, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Facebook is a deeply Meta is a deeply terrible company, and everyone should delete their accounts.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you knew, like, if you already knew that the Facebook sells and Twitter would sell your data to the government, and it's like, that's what makes it completely eerie and spooky when Metokur said that they wanted to give like, tablets or what's it, iPads to students, because at first it sounded like you don't want kids to read and write, but you want to get an iPads. But then it's kind of like when you see things from like, the framework of we are transitioning to a society of control. It's kind of like if you're using the iPad, it's better for monitoring you, and like if you do something off, it's like oh, like you did something off, we could end up living in. Have you ever seen the anime Psychopaths?
Psychopaths?
Yeah, that's the name of the anime. Have you seen the anime Psychopaths?
No, I haven't. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
It's a dystopian reality. It's basically okay. There's some movies similar to Psychopaths. Basically, you could go to prison before you commit a crime. Because there is these computers or the software that could analyze your psyche, and they could basically the police could punish you before you ever commits a crime.
Ooh. Wasn't there an American movie that had a similar premise?
Yeah, there is an American movie. I never seen it. It's a Tom Cruise movie, but
Well,
I
he's
never.
a Scientologist, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I never saw the movie, so I can't remember its title. But Psychopaths was like basically the too long didn't read version is it's like you could punish criminals before they commit a crime. So if a person is like just living a normal life, or they're just doing normal things, you could just send them to prison even if they haven't committed a crime yet. But it's like if you're getting children addicted to like an iPad at an early age, then you're probably like looking like, oh, you're not using the internet the way you used to, use it. Like, oh, I noticed like you're not using the internet the same way. Like, is there a reason we're probably transitioning to like, punishing people for crimes that they didn't commit yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's deeply unethical because, first of all, how actually accurate is that sort of thing? And even if it would be perfectly accurate, it's just wrong to punish people who haven't done anything yet.
Yeah, but I think that's the reason why they wanted people to get addicted to the internet, because
Mhm.
even though that hasn't quite happened yet, something similar to that has happened where a person would be using, Gab AI, and they would say, or yeah, Gab AI, the far right sites, then like the FBI would be monitoring Gab, and then they would just show up to a person's house, and they seem to be like spot on because the person did collect a lot of ammo, but and it's like, well, it's good that the person really was a criminal that did had a bunch of ammo, but it's kind of like it's also kind of spooky that you could get in trouble for a crime that you haven't committed yet.
Yeah. Anyway, Rin, I think we should give some closing remarks because I've got to head off.
Okay, there is so Daniel in the comment section. I would like to read what he says before we close. Hello, Daniel. It's not ironic. It's the friend enemy distinction laid out by philosopher Carl Schmitt. What's just ironic is that these woke leftists embody a principle associated with a can't see jurist. Um, Anyway, points is that principles are a misdirection. What matters is loyalty to the inner group. Thus, anything goes. Um, so, do you have any remarks on that?
No, not really. I mean, I suppose I need to be more familiar with the friend-enemy distinction laid out by philosopher Carl Schmitt before I could make a commentary. So I'll read up on that first.
Yeah, this is the very first time I've ever heard of Carl Schmidt. So, Lapis, is there anything you want to advertise? Do you want to advertise your channel? Do you like, or if you're selling something, do you want to? Is there anything you want to advertise?
Sure. This is my grifting hour. My YouTube channel, The Effeminate Degenerate, is still up. You can head to that. You can also find me as Lapis or @DegenerateThing on Twitter if you are a fellow Twitter addict. And yeah, you'll probably also be able to find me again on Rin's channel because I really like coming on here and I really like talking to Rin.
All right, thank you, Lapis, so much for coming. You are welcome anytime. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.